Welcome. Thank you for joining us this evening. We are doing a special webinar today that is covering the 3+2 programs here at Texas A&M University. So these programs are a little bit unique in that they are only for Texas A&M undergrads that we partner with several departments. So they have some unique features that are important for us to cover. And we'll have a number of different opportunities for you to interact either through putting the questions in the chat or at the end, we will let you unmute and you can ask students questions, or I will stay on this entire time and you can ask me questions. So be thinking about what's on your mind and keep in mind that this program is specifically for those that want to speed up their undergrad to grad process. So these allow students to join the Bush School master's programs at the start of their senior year at Texas A&M. The programs that we combine with are Master of Public Service. This is going to be political science, economics, sociology, ag econ, and the rangeland, wildlife, and fishery management. If you're on the IA side and looking at Masters of International Affairs, you can come in through either International Affairs or Economics. So economics is unique in that you guys have a choice of which one you want, but you'll be paying attention to some of the unique characteristics of each of those programs later in this webinar. The benefits of doing a program like this is that you can earn 18 credits. I said MIA courses, but that does pertain to MPSA as well. These are going to be earning credits towards your undergrad. So you're taking master's level courses that'll count towards credits for undergrad classes. So that means you get a little bit of cost savings because you're paying undergrad costs. And you're not having to pay for some of these classes that at the grad school level, you may be receiving some scholarship for. You also don't have to pay an $89 application fee because you're applying with an internal application. So you can earn both your bachelor's and master's in 5 years, or for some of the go-getters who are coming in with some AP credits and faster accommodation through some summer classes, then some are coming in and earning their master's in 4 years with their undergraduate. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce ourselves. So my name is Catherine Meyer. I'm the Director of Admissions and Recruitment here at the Bush School, and I'll be working and covering some of the aspects of what the programs are like academically, what they look like in terms of applying, how do you qualify, what are our faculty looking for in the students. And I have joining me Matt Upton. He's our Assistant Dean of Career and Student Services. And I've asked Matt to come in and speak of the kind of jobs people are looking for, the benefits of a master's degree, which include higher salary, networking, things of that sort. And then he will also cover some of the support services that we offer our students through Career and Student Services. And then, as I mentioned, we'll have some students come in later in this broadcast, and Kay, Grace, and Rebecca will be here to answer questions. I've got several topics on a screen and they can go through those and they can also take questions from you guys. So having said that, there's several things on this agenda that I just said. So as we go through these, be thinking about these sections, jot down what you don't know, and we'll take those at a later time. So we're going to start with Matt Upton. If you'll take it from here, Matt.
Great. Thanks, Catherine. Well, howdy, everybody. Glad you all are here today. So I want to just share some information about the careers that students go into when they finish either our Master of International Affairs or Master of Public Service and Administration. And I want to point out that really either degree can lead to similar career paths. So don't look at either of these degrees as something that I have to do one or the other to go into a specific line of work. An example of that would be if you want to work in the intelligence community, many people think I have to be in the national security and diplomacy track of the international affairs program. And I don't agree with that. From a career services standpoint, employers are looking for knowledge, skills, and abilities, and you can develop those in both of the programs. But just to give you kind of a quick overview, you could find yourself doing any of the career fields that you see listed on here. We have former students who are communications or public relations personnel for cities, nonprofit organizations, the federal government, businesses, etc. You'll also see people who are starting businesses and doing entrepreneurship. You might find some former students who are working in the energy and environment space, whether that is, again, at the local level or working for a private company doing that. You could find them also working in nonprofit organizations, security and intelligence, as I've already mentioned. We have former students working in federal, state, and local government. So you're going to find quite a range of opportunities. To give you a little more specific information, we like to share some of the employers that have hired our former students in the past. So at the federal level, you're going to see a number of the intelligence agencies and national security organizations, like the Central Intelligence Agency. They were just here last week, spent almost the entire week here last week doing interviews, having some simulations, and interacting with our students who are interested in working both in clandestine services and in the intelligence analyst arena. Same thing with Defense Intelligence Agency, FBI, other places like the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. A lot of acronyms and a lot of words here, but you'll see many that are familiar. I guess we should probably update USAID. Sad to say that is not a place that you can get a job, but we are still having students who are getting jobs at the State Department, Departments of Commerce, Defense, Justice, U.S. Government Accountability Office. At the state and local level, we've got a number of former students who are working as city managers, budget directors, um, public utilities directors at the state level, working as commissioner for environmental quality. We have one of our former students who is the Texas Commissioner for Environmental Quality. Um, we have people working for the Texas Sunset Advisory Commission. Outside of the state of Texas, you'll see other states listed on here. Utah, we've had former students work in California, Arkansas, up in the Washington, D.C. area, Maryland, and Virginia. Also, other state agencies like the Texas A&M Transportation Institute. Nonprofit organizations, obviously, we list ones that are probably going to be more familiar to you. Some local nonprofit organizations like the Brazos Valley Food Bank or the Foundation Communities, Greater Texas Foundation here in Bryan. Habitat for Humanity, we've had former students work at both the local Habitat for Humanity and also nationwide at the national level, the National Office for Habitat for Humanity, and other local offices. Nonprofit organizations like St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital in Memphis, Tennessee, and then United Way in Austin, here locally, down in Houston, and in the Dallas area. And then private companies like Accenture, Bank of America, companies like Chemonics, which is an international development government contractor, Deloitte Consulting, Ernst& Young, MD Anderson Cancer Center, and RAND Corporation, which is a think tank in the Washington, D.C. area. So just to give you an idea, oftentimes people want to know, well, what kind of job title can I get? I know where I could go to work, but what kind of titles could I have? And you'll see one of the challenges with titles is that what they mean at one organization doesn't always translate to other organizations. But these are some general ones so that you can get an idea. We've got students who graduate and get titles as analysts, both budget analyst, program analyst, policy analyst, intelligence analyst. That would be in the intelligence arena. Those would be people who do research and gather intelligence all day long, not necessarily the clandestine or undercover services, but that gives you an idea of what that looks like. Coordinators, both communications coordinators, homeland security, emergency management, after school programs for nonprofit organizations, community development coordinators, consultants working for government organizations, government contractors working in policy or strategy response, anti-money laundering, developers and directors of both policy and protocols or health resources. If you're looking at a broader look at national security opportunities, you might find yourself in an investigator role for both criminal cases or social equity or services, social services like CASA and some other places like that. Nonprofit managers, managers of legislative offices, maybe working for a state senator or a state legislator, working in city government as well, and then for programs and projects. Researchers, if you're interested in working on the research side of things for think tank or for research organizations at universities or other organizations, you can find those in a variety of policy fields or with think tanks, as I mentioned. And then some other titles that we've seen our students go into pretty regularly are auditor or specialist, planner, primarily in local government, assistants. We have had people become police officers or police chiefs or firefighters. So the graduate school advantage, a lot of people obviously want to know, why should I go to graduate school? And really, the first thing is to build upon your undergraduate education. As you have already learned, when you start an undergraduate education, you're taking your basics. Maybe you come in with some of those things. But then as you get into your upper level courses, you really start to look at the work that you're interested in doing. And that's really what graduate school is. It's a deepening of the types of knowledge, skills, and abilities that you need to have to be successful in public or international affairs. So you're going to build upon that undergraduate education, especially those of you that are coming in from in these 3+2 programs. Um, you may focus on specific sectors or specialties that employers desire, like grant writing if you're interested in the nonprofit sector, quantitative or analysis skills if you're working in research or if you're working in a budget office for a city or for a state. We're also going to teach you things like professionalism in your writing. BLUF looks like kind of like a funny acronym there, but it's just bottom line upfront writing. How do I put that bottom line at the beginning of my writing so that I can be concise? Good example is oftentimes as a employee in local government working maybe in a city manager's office, you may be asked to take a 200-page document and summarize it in a matter of a page or two or 3 pages. So you've really got to get good at putting that bottom line up front so that the city manager can read that and understand what you're trying to do. So we teach that here at the school. We also give you the chance to learn more about yourself through Myers-Briggs type indicator, strengths, and other self-assessments. You'll have the chance to do research with faculty members, group work projects, like it or not, graduate school does involve group work projects, especially in your second year when you do your capstone. We have a number of speakers and conferences, as you've probably seen if you've been in the Allen building for any period of time. You see on the TV monitors that they're always advertising different speakers and opportunities for you to come and learn. Give you the opportunity to grow professionally. Do an internship between your first and second year. I already mentioned those client-based consulting projects, those capstone projects, which you'll hear more about later on today. We also have a number of Bush School specific affiliated student groups, and a number of our 3+2 students continue to be involved in their sorority or fraternity or maybe their student organization that they've been involved with as an undergraduate. And then you also continue to have opportunities to travel internationally through study abroad, or if you're in the international affairs program, to maybe do some additional language immersion training for yourself while you're here in the program. You're also going to get to build a professional network. We have organizations like a student chapter of the International City Management Association or the Association of Fundraising Professional Student Chapter for those of you interested in philanthropy and fundraising and nonprofit work. We've got student organizations that are focused on women in peace and security. We've got another student organization specifically interested in international development and economics. And so plenty of opportunities, and you can see Catherine adding some things as I talk. And then also you have the chance to continue to develop your relationships with our Bush School former students and other Texas A&M University former students. Our former students are very happy to interact with you. They want to help you. They want you to be successful. And then if you're used to working with the Career Services Office on main campus in the coldest building, one of the unique offerings that we have here at the Bush School is that we do have a graduate career services office. Both Michael Cochran, who manages our employer relations and also meets with students, brings in employers, and we have a career management system specific to our graduate programs. And then Ashley Winterroad, who does career programming, career training, and workshops to make sure that you're prepared for your job search, so you have a quality LinkedIn profile. So another thing you're probably going to want to be able to talk to family members and loved ones that you're interacting with is this cost benefit analysis. So a lot of people want to know, hey, is it really worth it to go to graduate school? Am I going to make more money? So I like to just give you a good example is it the federal general schedule pay scale. Federal government is really transparent about their pay scale, so it's really easy to make a comparison. We find very similar situations in state and local government and in nonprofit organizations, although they don't have, because it's not like the federal government where they can post their pay scale for every job across all local government, because each entity, each city, each county, each state kind of manages that on their own. But if you were to graduate at the end of your undergraduate degree and go to work in the federal government, you would typically be hired at what is called the GS or General Schedule Grade 7 Step 1 salary. And right now, if you're in Washington, D.C., that means you're going to make $57,164. If, on the other hand, you get a graduate degree, a master's degree, and you apply for a job in Washington, D.C. with that master's degree, you're going to be hired at a GS grade 9, step 1, which is $69,923. So you can see almost a $13,000 increase in your pay. So earning a master's degree helps you qualify for that extra 12, almost $13,000 just at the end of your graduate degree. So we are also seeing, because of what has been going on in the federal government, not just in the last year, but over the last 10 years or so, with a number of federal government employees retiring, we're seeing more and more of our students graduate and get promoted quickly within the government. Now, that's federal government, but we're seeing the same thing in state government, in local government. We have a student, a former student, who is now back here as an associate professor of the practice, who was a city manager for a medium-sized city in the state of Texas when he was in his mid-30s. So very successful, and you can do that. A lot of people talk about public sector jobs not making a lot of money. I disagree with that. Are you going to make private sector amounts of money? No, you're not. But you are going to make decent money. You can still have a high quality of life satisfaction and do well for yourselves financially. So, if you were to work for, a small nonprofit in a small community, yeah, you can expect to make a little bit less. But if you're working for larger organizations or in major cities, you're going to do fine for yourself. As I already mentioned, we have a dedicated career services team. I also meet with students. As an assistant dean, I started in career services here at the Bush School 22 years ago. So I still love being able to do it when I can. I just don't have as much bandwidth for that. But as I mentioned, Michael and Ashley both help with that. We have an assistant director for the leadership program, public service leadership program, Holly Kasperbauer. She's the one who does our internal self-assessments with Myers-Briggs and Strength. She also helps you to develop an individual leadership plan and offers workshops to help you as a leader. We also have a couple of staff members who work with you in your writing. They're not going to write your papers for you or edit your papers for you, but they are going to give you scaffolding or something to build off of so that you can develop your professional writing skills. That's where you're going to learn about this bottom line up front writing, and that can also be very helpful in your capstone final project or final paper. As I mentioned, we have a number of speakers and conferences. We had a Syria conference yesterday, continuing to have a focus on Syria this year. We've got some other speakers coming in the next couple of weeks. And then we have 6 research centers and institutes and other programs that not only bring in speakers, but also give you as a student an opportunity to do research with them. And so you're going to be working alongside faculty to be able to do that research, enhance your skills. Sometimes that will lead to part-time graduate assistantship opportunities. Sometimes that will lead to graduate student worker positions where you can make an hourly salary for that. And other times it can give you the opportunity, even if it's not paid, to be published if you want to move into that line of work where you want to be published for your research. So plenty of opportunities for you to get involved. Student support continually. We are always looking for opportunities to help you grow. So we also offer study abroad opportunities, a number led by faculty, Bush School faculty, and you can also find some on your own. Some of our capstone projects will allow you to travel both internationally or domestically. Some summer semester exchanges where you go away for an entire semester. We haven't seen as much of that since COVID, but there are still opportunities out there if that's something you want to pursue. I think I mentioned earlier that the Master of International Affairs program does require you to pass an oral language exam, a language of your choice. But you have to be able to pass at an intermediate low or conversational level using the American Council for the Training of Foreign Languages. As a way to do that, we hire linguist tutors in critical languages. And then you also have the opportunity, instead of doing a summer internship, you can do a summer language immersion. And then we also encourage you to utilize the other software resources available through Texas A&M University. And then, as I've mentioned, we have a number of Bush School associated student organizations that you can be involved in. Some of them are listed here, and you can find more information, and we're happy to answer questions about that. Or you can continue being involved in the student organizations that you've already associated with here as a student at Texas A&M.
Thank you, Matt.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, so I'm going to now transition to what we're looking for, how to apply, how to know if you're qualified. So I'll start with who we're looking for, and this is taken from the faculty. The department heads definitely want motivated, smart, hardworking leaders, and we find that really strongly at Texas A&M. You guys are participating in a lot of organizations. You're trying to be a balanced kind of student, doing well in the classroom, but also gathering those other skills where you can find your passions and be able to lead through that, maybe in the community or maybe into a certain kind of organization. So those with a calling to service, especially public service, we love that. It doesn't mean everyone has it, but it does help students kind of stand out. And again, we find a lot of that here at Texas A&M. And then that maturity and knowing kind of what you want to do. So it's not that everyone comes in and already knows they want to be a budget analyst for the rest of their lives, but it's knowing, hey, I think I want to work with policy, or the intelligence field really intrigues me. You need to have done something in order to have zeroed in, or grad school's not going to get you very far if you're going to turn around and not use it. So making sure that you have involved yourself in classes, organizations, and internship, experienced something in order to get the most out of a graduate program. At the Bush School, you're going to work individually and as part of a team. That is going to be a big part because, working within, again, federal government and others, you're going to be working across departments and doing some of that um, sharing of ideas and putting things together. I don't think our government does a great job of that right now, but we need to be leaders in showing that that can be done and working together. You're going to develop that knowledge, skills, and abilities that Matt mentioned earlier. You're preparing for professional life wherever it leads. And it may jump from job to job, career to career, but know that we're always here to support you. You can always be put back in touch with alumni. And there are certificates that you could go back and pursue if you did want to change pathways. And you're building those lifelong personal and professional connections. You all are very familiar with the Aggie Network and where that can lead. So we're just going to expand on that by adding the Bush School connection as well. Now, as far as academics go, the curriculum part of this, keep in mind 3+2 students that are coming in as juniors leading into their senior year. You guys take the exact same kind of classes as a normal admitted student who already has their degree. There's really not a differential in what you're taking for classes. It's just what you're taking for hours may be giving you some undergrad credit as well. I had mentioned earlier, it's about 18 credit hours for most of the programs. So those 6 classes, you're going to get benefit of not having to pay that undergrad class for those 18 classes and then the grad for it. You're just paying it all at once. So 48 credit hours is what you have to complete for this degree. And you would start that your senior year. You will have tracks and concentrations, much like you have majors and minors, that kind of guide the courses and the specialties that you're doing. And I'll share with you what those look like in our departments. You will also be required to do an internship or an immersive language study. If you're in the MIA, you get a choice. You will also complete a client-based capstone consulting project. So it is not a thesis-based writing a long paper on a particular topic that you've come up with. It is working with a client, finding out what they want done, and you will have some say-so in which one you choose. So you'll hear from faculty, you'll hear what the clients, the gist of the work, and then you'll rank order your top choices and be placed in one of those. For the MIA, you also have to pass a foreign language exam. So if you're coming into the international affairs, make sure you're maintaining and taking language. So we've had a few students come in through the Bachelor of Science, which doesn't require language. So just make sure if it didn't, then you are already a native language speaker in another language. Sometimes we do, or you continue working on that on the outside. And that can be in any language of your choice. We love to see the critical languages, but many are coming in and doing the Spanish and French or German because that's what they built from high school, and that's okay. Graduation, you can make a decision of, great, this is going exactly what I want as I go through this program. Or if it's not what you thought it was, or some kind of circumstances changes, you don't have to finish the 3+2 program. You can exit and then count our courses towards your undergrad and keep moving forward and graduate by the end of the year. We've had a few students do that. But if you can continue for the full 2 years of the Master of Public Service or Master of International Affairs, you will earn both your bachelor's and master's at the end of year 2. You will only walk for your master's program. You do not walk graduation for your undergrad program, which is kind of a benefit, I think, because who wants to sit through, the hundreds of people through your undergrad department? Here, the Bushkill's much smaller. So let's cover the two flagship programs. The Master of Public Service Administration, 2-year, 48 credit hour degree. That means you're taking 4 classes each semester. Sometimes students think, well, that's less than what I already do, but these are master's level classes. So many of them are intensive reading and intensive writing. So you just have to be aware 4 courses is over the normal 3 courses that students do at the master's level. So we're already putting a little bit on your plate, which means you need to have taken care of all your undergrad classes because you don't have room to take undergrad classes on top of our grad classes. I already mentioned you're going to be required for an internship and a 1-year capstone working for a client. There are some availability of doing PhD collaborative degrees once you're in the Master of Public Service and you decide you want to do research with education or public health. You can get early entry into those programs by following the application deadlines and requirements for them. I don't know that a lot of students do that, but it exists and it is an option for those that are interested in it. Additionally, sometimes people will come to us taking courses, let's say in Homeland Security within the Master of Public Service. And as they're taking those courses, they realize, wait a minute, I could be, if I'm signing up for these, why don't I go ahead and apply for the certificate in Homeland Security and let me earn 2 credentials as I complete these 4 classes. And so they may earn a Master of Public Service with a certificate in Homeland Security. Not everyone does it. It does require applying before you start taking those classes, but it is an option. Same thing with nonprofit courses or the public management courses. Um, Keep in mind too, there is an executive program that is offered online. So there may be an online course that piques your interest and you want to take that. And if you do, just keep in mind, you got to get advisor approval. It has to be an elective and it's going to cost you about $1,500 more per online class. You might be able to get some scholarship from the online program to do it, but it is an extra cost. So just be forewarned. Otherwise, most of the time you're taking your classes in person here, and we'll cover the cost in just a second. Now you have tracks, which are what are closer to your majors for undergrad. Those tracks guide your study. You would either choose public management, public policy analysis, or nonprofit management. In this world, some people decide they want to do 2 tracks, and that is possible. The optional concentrations are there for those that want to get kind of a specialty. Not everybody wants that. Many times people just want certain skill sets, things that they're jumping around through the different concentrations and taking specific courses. So they're just track focused, and that's okay. If you do want to do an optional concentration, we have many that exist here. I talked to someone today that was interested in analytical methods. Another one was looking at the national defense and homeland security. State and local government is one of our more popular ones. And then there's those that decide that they want to construct their own topic. It could be something like agricultural policy or transportation issues or social policy or something with housing. And you can take other classes in departments here at Texas A&M with advisor approval. So there's a lot of an ability to create your own type of emphasis area. Now this slide is just a few sample track courses so that you can see there's a wide range. If you were just to focus on public policy, for instance, you can see that that goes all the way from finance to analysis to qualitative methods in public service. You got an environmental class, an immigration and education class, urban policy, social welfare, energy. There's all kinds. And in this case, somebody may not, again, want to concentrate on anything. They just want to take classes that deal with analysis in a wide range of areas, not really knowing what area they're going to focus on when they graduate. And if they've got a robust skill set to pull from and knowledge base, then all the better for them. Public management, you can see some other classes, same thing with nonprofits. I will mention with the nonprofits, we do have a center for nonprofits and philanthropy. So we are helping those students make some connections with the fundraising with different nonprofits. People have gone on to a lot of different states, a lot of different either local organizations or national, in helping them, go from the ground up and getting volunteers to how to raise it, how to raise funds for it. So that is a very well-developed track here at the Bush School. Those concentrations are going to look similar. They're going to have the title with a number of different courses, but those courses may not all be public service administration. They may include classes from urban planning or somewhere from education. Those that are looking at health policy will take a lot of classes from the public health here in campus. So you've got a lot of ability to change out what you're wanting to do, because a lot of your classes are core courses in the first part. And then as you start taking electives, that's when people start to go, okay, this one's what interests me. This is what I want to focus on. Now, the International Affairs is very similar in that they are also a 2-year, 48 credit hour program. They have 11 electives to customize, which gives them a little bit more freedom to customize than, let's say, the MPSA. But their requirements are a little bit more. They also require an internship or a language immersion. You get to choose which one. Language immersion is usually chosen for those that haven't been able to work on that foreign language and get to where they need to be, because they have to pass that test at intermediate low, which is conversational in their chosen language. And if they're not getting there, they may need to go to France and work on their French. They may want to go do a study abroad somewhere in Costa Rica and work on their Spanish. So you have a little bit of flexibility in that. And again, you're going to do a capstone. Only this time it's a semester-long capstone working for a client. So you'll hear what those projects are and get to rank order your choices, and you'll be placed in one of those, working alongside your colleagues, typically numbering between 5 to 10 students per capstone for the MIA. The International Affairs also has some 3-year combined degrees where students can go in and do public health and economics. I probably should have taken this off because I'm not sure that's eligible for those coming into the 3+2 program, but those do exist, and you'll see a few students come in for that. Additionally, you can transfer and double count, what I prefer to use, 12 credit hours from the certificate or the certificate in Homeland Security or International Affairs. Keep in mind that International Affairs, you have to have started that program before you start the MIA. So I don't know that really works well for our 3+2 students because you're already coming in early. But you definitely can do it for the Homeland Security. Their tracks number 2, right? So they've got 1 in national security and diplomacy. That probably brings in 70 to 75 of the 90 students for that class. The other 15 to 20 are in international development and economic policy. We'd love to have more IDEP students, but many people come in a little bit afraid of econ, and so they tend to try to, I don't know about that one, or they're already fascinated with the world of diplomacy and intelligence, and they just don't necessarily want to commit to that IDEP kind of focus area. Here you have to do 2 concentrations. One of them is tied to your track. The other one can be any of them. So for instance, if someone is coming in under the IDEP track, they would have to choose either conflict and development, foreign economic policy, international economic development, pandemic preparedness, biosecurity and disaster response, or women, peace and security. Any of those can work to fulfill their first concentration. And that's 3 courses to fulfill that. Their second concentration can now be any of them. And again, you take 3 more classes. Well, that only adds up to 6 classes. You have 5 more classes that you can just take this class, that one, this one over here looks good. Oh, look, I actually want to take this one over here in public service. Can I do that one? Oh, here's a class over here in nuclear engineering because I'm looking at non-proliferation. Can I take that class? Yes, you just work with your advisor to get approvals for those. Sample courses, I'm not going to read these out, but I've listed some of the classes under diplomacy, which is one of our more popular areas. Same thing with intelligence. You've got some for international economic development at the bottom. Might be specific to a certain country. It could be, something like politics and practice of democracy promotion. These are people who are going into hard places to do hard things, as former Dean Crocker used to say. We need people who are willing to go and do this work and work where countries need economic support and understand why they're having so many security issues and understanding the foundations of how those economies work. So great, great classes. You get choices each semester. Every semester you can take an elective. So overall, this is a premier education. You know, moving in from that undergrad into that graduate, you're going to be able to tailor your courses, build your core from your track courses into your specialties. You can take courses in other Texas A&M departments. But one of the greatest parts is you're learning from seasoned practitioners. The Bush School has done an excellent job of not only having the researchers and academics, but bringing in practitioners who have spent a life, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, doing the work that our students want to do. So we have in the International Affairs Department a former CIA Director of Operations, an ambassador for the U.S. Foreign Service. We had someone who worked with the RAND Corporation as an analyst, a U.S. development project manager, an administrator of USAID, which doesn't exist, but that's okay. Top lecturers and academics in their fields, in regional study, national security, coming from the military, international economics. It's wonderful just to have that background to tie in with that research academic. The PSAA, same idea. They're coming in from leadership with nonprofits, public and private organizational management, Texas education, school finance, and so many, many more. City management is another big area that's been picking up within the last 5 years. And so we've put on a couple of city managers who are now training those next set of public servants all across the state and into several other states. Now, the benefit of interacting, you might have been sitting in classes here at Texas A&M with 80 students, maybe over 100. Here, most of our classes top off at about 20 students. Most of our classrooms don't hold more than 70, and that's some of our bigger lecture classes is where we have to host our speakers. So we're trying to enroll in each of those Master of Public Service and Master of International Affairs, somewhere between 80 to 100 students. I normally use around 90 as my goal, and we just take it from there and see how it fills out for that year. The faculty to student ratio is about 1 to 10 in both of them. Well, when you combine the two programs together, and the average class size is probably around 16 because I've seen classes as few as 5 to 8, 8 being probably a little more of that lower number size to up to 20, 25 if they're trying to push in some students on those really popular classes. Now, there are a couple of undergrad reminders for you, right? When you're applying, you will come into the Bush School, or at the time that you're applying, you're around that 80-ish hour mark, and that's going to vary by students. But you have to have 102 really to have fulfilled all of your minimum hours required for entry. Some students are applying with more than that because they're counting some of their AP credits, or they changed majors, or they picked up a second or third minor. So all that's the part you've got to work with your undergrad advisor to see where it is. But we're kind of looking for, you got to have at least that 102 minimum hours or you are off cycle and this may not work for you. You may need to get your degree and then come to us after graduating. You must take all those prerequisites on these study guides that we have, these course planners that I'll talk about in a few minutes and show you some snapshots. And you've got to work with your advisor to fill those out. Now, the INTS, anyone coming from international studies, international affairs is the new name. That experience for your study abroad requirement, you have to complete that before you enroll with us. So make sure they are getting that into your schedule and you're planning on that before you step back into our classes as a senior. You're also going to be setting back classes that your masters are going to count for, roughly 18 hours from most of the majors. And you've got to keep your GPA at a certain minimum. So the minimum GPA at the time of enrollment is a 3.25 for most of the majors. INTA, INTS, that international affairs is a little bit higher. It's at a 3.5. And you're going to fill out those course planners, which I will guide you in a second. Now, the classification, you're paying a cheaper price in your first year with us because you are still scheduled as a U4. That's an undergrad, fourth year senior. So a little bit cheaper because you're not paying our 3,000 fee, Bush School fee, and you're also paying for the lower fees at the undergrad level. You will change to what is called a G7 over the summer, usually between your first and second year, after you've completed 120 credit hours. So we're going to guide you with that. You're going to work with your undergrad advisor. You'll work with your departmental advisor to make sure that those all get changed over. Now, this is a situation that comes up and affects some people more than others, but I have to talk about it. Financial aid, particularly if you are on federal financial aid, you can be impacted and hurt by doing this program. And let me explain a little bit on this. Students in our program are usually taking 4 classes, right? That's 12 credit hours in the fall, 12 credit hours in the spring. But remember when we talked about you're only getting around 18 undergrad credit hours from our classes. So this causes a federal aid issue. And this is where I'm going to go into that. Only 18 hours of your master's courses can count. Well, federal aid is looking at the 12 hours as full time, and they're going, great, you're fine in the fall. You did 4 classes, and that's 12 hours. That's great. But in the spring, they're only seeing 6 hours of that counting towards undergrad. Your other 6 hours are grad, and they're not counting that. So they're saying, oh, well, you're going to have to pay for that differential. And some students are caught off guard saying, oh, I can't afford to do that. Well, what am I supposed to do now? Sometimes they have to take out emergency loans. So you will need to work with Texas A&M Student Financial Aid. They're the experts in this to see how this might affect your federal financial aid. So if you're taking Pell's grants, federal loans out, you will need to work with them. Be forewarned. Your undergrad advisor should also be telling you this. If you're taking just state or institutional financial aid, or you were granted something from, an Aggie Moms Club, it does not affect this. It is only the federal aid. So you just got to make sure that you're working with that. If you're at full time at 9+ hours each semester and you're awarded your financial aid, you should be fine at state and institutional. So this is some changes that have happened. So admissions app requirements. You're still asking for the same things with the addition of we've added the course planners. So you're applying when you're around that 65 to 80 hours. Remember, I said it brings a wide swath of experiences in with someone coming in with transfer credits, minors, AP credits. So don't sweat it too much if you're a little bit off. But remember, I got to have that 102 minimum. And reminder, we only have fall enrollment. So sometimes people have to speed up or slow down or take classes in the summer. Watch your timing for this. When you're ready to apply, you are going to apply in that fall of your junior year. And you're going to go to our part of the website for the joint 3+2 programs. You're going to complete an internal application, not GradCAS. If you go to GradCAS, you're paying money and you're not doing it right. So go to our internal application. You're also going to be submitting a course planner signed by your undergrad departmental advisor. You're going to submit your resume, personal statement, transcripts from any 4-year college. Unofficial is fine. They should already be in your record. 2 letters of rec submitted via email to Bush School applications. The GRE is optional. Most people are not taking it. It's up to you. And if we do happen to have an international student, they would have to have the proof of English proficiency. Now, here's where we've changed a little bit. Round 1, you want to apply by December 15th, because that's when we're giving the higher money and financial aid consideration. Now, that may not affect your first year, because I'll cover that funding in a second, but in your second year, it could affect it. So the Master of Public Service, if you apply early enough, you're going to get an early admission decision by February, but you're not going to know what your funding is until March, because we do interviews and we're going to do all interviews before we make funding decisions. MIA is going to a new thing. We're going to try to hold off on interviews this year and try something new with a different evaluation. And we're going to do admissions and funding decisions at the same time. And you would know by early February if you apply by that priority deadline. Now, round two is the last time. If someone comes to me and goes, man, I try to get December 15th, but I'm running behind, or I just found out this program, you only have until January 15th to apply. After that, it is closed for our international students and for our 5-year applicants. So you have to apply by then. MPSA at that time will give you admission decisions and funding as released in mid-March, because now you're going to hit all of our interviews in February. MIA, you're going to get admit and funding decisions released in mid-February. We're going to move a little faster. Interviews are required for the Master of Public Service, so we'll have interview conference weekend, February 20th and 21st in 2026. So you would probably want to attend that and do your interviews in person. And the MIA is going to host what's called an Admitted Student Day. And this is going to be on Friday, February 27th, where you're going to have an opportunity to interact with some faculty, alumni, students, and staff. It's basically the same thing as the interview conference weekend, just taking out the interviews. But you're still going to get some chances to interact with people and do some Q&A sessions. Those offer response deadlines, you have to let us know if you're going to accept or decline by April 15th. Most of our 3+2 students let us know before that because you want to start registering for your classes before the good ones are gone. Now, I talked about course planners. This is on the website. You're going to go to the 3+2 section on our website. You're going to look for the departmental course planners under the admissions section, how to apply. And it's going to have this blue section right here that says click here to find and download the course planner for your major. And we had to do this because there are so many different variations of catalog numbers depending on when someone came in and they've made changes. And so each catalog has a little bit difference. So on this next slide, you're going to see when you go to that link, you're going to see one for economics, political science, sociology, and you've got to find the right kind of which catalog am I in? So political science is a great example. There's a catalog for 25, 26, 23, 24, 24, 25. There's another one underneath it for 22, 23. Each one has a BA and a BS. And so you got to make sure, am I looking for economics with a Bachelor of Arts? And if you do, you would click on something. Now, I've clicked on the BA Political Science, and this is the second page of this. This is what you're working on filling out with your advisor, and it shows you which courses are undergrad, which ones are courses that you're going to double count, which are the courses that you're going to take for us that don't count for anything. It's just our credit, not undergrad. All of this has to be set aside and paid attention to. So you must start early and you must work with your advisors. All right, almost done. Financial aid. Now, it's a competitive enrollment. We are looking for strong grades, strong getting involved, being mature, being able to sit in classes with people who might be 10 years older than you. MPSA, our GPA was a 3.48. MIA was a little bit higher. Merit with experience and fit will affect your scholarship level in year 2. Now, the Bush School grants scholarships to everyone we admit. With 3+2 students, it is just $1,000 in your first year. We're hoping you still have some undergrad loans or scholarships that you can still be using as a U4. But when you turn over to a G7, that's when our more generous scholarship will kick in. Usually that starts at around 3,000, can be 5,000. A few lucky people might even be 10,000, but those are hard to get. Usually 3,000 and 5,000 is what most of our students get. Or you can compete for a GA position, and if you get that instead, you give up whatever that second year award was going to be, and instead you're working for about $20,000, working 20 hours a week. You have to be competitive with the first year GPA in order to get one of those positions typically. You can also get an internship stipend from the Career Service Office if you get a unpaid internship or if you're trying to do a language immersion. They may have some funding to help you. Our cost in that second year, I don't even know what you pay for undergrad. I'm sure it's close to this, a little bit cheaper, but our cost is $13,600 for your tuition and fees before your scholarship kicks in. And that is, like I said, second year cost. Non-Texans are granted non-resident tuition waivers as well. We just have to try to keep an eye on them. In fact, we'd probably have to do at least a $3,000 award in your first year in order to make you qualify it because it's different. We don't run across into too many, but we'll work with you on making sure you're qualified. Okay, now you don't have to hear me talk anymore. I'm going to pass this on for some current student insights. I do want our students who are here for prospects who have some questions, either feel free to unmute after our students introduce themselves. But if we don't see anybody unmuting, if we don't see any questions dropped in the chat, these are some of the topics we're going to talk about. So I've got Pay, Grace, and Rebecca. You three can just decide either raising your hand or just kind of go in order. I don't necessarily need you both to, or all three of you to talk about the same topic, but you're welcome to jump around and use these as springboards for something that you want to talk about. We've got about 20 to 30 minutes to cover these. So Pay, if you can start, because I have you listed first as my sociology MPSA student. I'm guessing on what your emphasis areas are for some of you based off your application, so I'll change that as you talk. But if you guys can all three introduce yourselves in this order and then just springboard into some topics of interest. Okay, thank you.
Okay, I guess I'll go first if y'all can hear me. Um, but for some reason I can't read the screen very well. But I think that's my fault. Okay, there we go. So, yeah, my name is Pei. I'm an MPSA student. I'm a 3+2, so I joined from the sociology program as an undergrad. I just finished my first year. I'm starting my second year right now. And the based on my application, what I'm doing right now is totally different, because sometimes, and this happens to a lot of people, you get to the program and you have a lot of opportunities to experience different things like your internship, different student orgs, stuff like that. Even just my classes is kind of what inspired me to change my track. So my track now is public policy analysis, and I have an individually designed concentration because you can make up your own in neighborhood services. So thank you. um, yeah, and I'm really interested in going into local government. I'm also one of those GAs that she talked about, where your second year you can apply for the 20-hour a week position. So it's really competitive, and I'm really happy to be working in that. So I'm a GA, I'm a graduate assistant in research, and I'm also the president of our ICMA student chapter here at A&M that's mostly run through the Bush School, but anyone can be a part of it. So if you're interested in local government, please don't hesitate to reach out to me because we have a lot of stuff to do with that. So that's my little introduction. Is there anything else you wanted me to talk about, Ms. Meyer?
Not yet. Let's do introductions first and then we'll go to something else. That was great. Thank you. Grace, you want to go?
Yeah. Hi, my name is Grace Jordan. I am a second year MIA, so Master in International Affairs student. Um, I am still on the NS&D track, National Security and Diplomacy, and my concentrations are still cyber policy and intelligence. I never changed them. Although I did add another concentration and then I took it away. Like what Pei was saying, that's kind of the great thing about taking classes is you can change your mind and just see what exactly you want to do. And as far as involvement goes, I am still involved with several of my undergraduate organizations. Like they still let me be there and be a part of it. So that's mainly what I'm involved in on campus.
Howdy, everyone. So my name is Rebecca Stafford. I'm also a second year 3+2 MIA student like Grace. I am still on the National Security and Diplomacy track. My concentrations are intelligence, grand strategy, and defense policy, and then I created one in counterterrorism. So another great example, like Pei was talking about, it's super easy to create a concentration. If you're interested in that, your advisor will certainly help you make that possible for you to do that. I currently I'm also a GA, graduate assistant of research, like Pay. And last year I also was working on campus, so have some tips for y'all as it pertains to working and balancing school. And I'm also the vice president of the John Quincy Adams Society, which is affiliated with the Albertan Center for Grand Strategy, but we are open to any and all students joining, graduates and undergraduates, and we're mainly focusing on foreign policy. So that's a little bit about me and my involvement.
So Rebecca, as you're talking, and I haven't seen any questions yet drop in, but why don't you pick a topic and let's just talk about something for a second to get started, and we'll just keep using our time that way.
Yes. So I guess I'll start on kind of the first two, like the differences between undergraduate life and graduate school, and also the classroom experience kind of within that. And if Pay or Grace have anything to add, they can do that after. Um, so it is a very big difference, obviously, just in like the classroom experience. Our class times are just under 3 hours. Depending on the professor, you will get 1 to 2 breaks for anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. So that's definitely something that you have to get used to. And definitely, I mean, it just requires a lot of brain power to always be on for that amount of time. I'd say all of our classes are very discussion heavy also, so that's something you have to get used to is being comfortable with speaking up because class participation is very important. Um, and I'd say another really big difference, yeah, like that's on there is like group work. You're going to come across it in almost all of the classes, and it's never going to be perfect because working in a group is never going to be perfect, but you're just gonna have to not be afraid also to get group members who are not like just the people that you know, but really do something that you are interested in. So it's a little bit at least like you like what you're working on, even if the group isn't exactly perfect. And don't be afraid to reach out to your professor also if it is getting really bad. And then the reading expectations, I would say one of the biggest tips that I have for people coming into this is learn how to skim because you're going to have a lot of reading. And skimming is a very great and fundamental tool that will definitely aid you in helping with that because there will be weeks that you could have, if like you're taking 2 classes that are super reading heavy, you could have over 200 pages a week of reading. So,
Yeah, I'm actually in a class right now called Famines, War, and Disaster Response with Dr. Natsios, and I want to say we read probably about 400 pages a week. Like it is a book a week or maybe 2 half books a week, and it is just nothing like undergrad. Of course, they're all really interesting books and I learn a lot, but yeah, Rebecca's right about the skimming. Like it is so important. Otherwise, you'd go crazy and my brain would melt having to read all that every single week.
Grace, was there something else about the transition that you want to talk about,
Yeah.
even outside of the reading? What's one other thing?
The biggest thing for me was feeling like I maybe didn't qualify to be there.
Okay.
I felt like when you walk into that class on the first day and they have everyone introduce themselves. I remember, oh my goodness, my very first class on my very first day, I was sitting next to a man who was 50 years old and was like a general in the army and was coming back and getting his master's degree. And he had all like everyone has all of these qualifications. And I was sitting there like I'm 20 years old. I, my hometown is an hour from here. I've never had a real job before. Like the most experience I have in this field has been the classes I've taken at A&M so far. And so for me, getting used to feeling like I deserve to be here too, and that my opinions are also valid, because you will find that a lot of people have very strong opinions about things because they've lived it. Or they come from a military perspective, or they come from a perspective because they worked at the World Bank or they worked somewhere else. And so just like I had a tough time thinking to myself, oh my goodness, like I don't know as I don't have as much real world experience as these people, maybe I shouldn't say anything. No, your opinion is so valid, and just learning to speak up and be passionate about your ideas, because Just because you don't have as much experience as someone or you're not as old doesn't mean that your opinions aren't valid. So that was the biggest thing for me to get used to, is just being so much younger and having so much less real life experience than everyone else. But the professors don't care about that. They just care about what you have to say and how passionate you are about it.
Thank you for that. I know that's been an important part people have talking about before. And Pay, because it's such an important one, what would you like to say between those first two questions?
Yeah, I think Grace brought up some really, really good points. One thing that they talked a lot about when I was at interview conference weekend is imposter syndrome, and I know a lot of people struggle with that. I personally didn't struggle with it, but I had a lot of friends who kind of went through that, and it was really, it's a tough thing to get over. I will say one of the biggest differences, and honestly one of the biggest benefits of the program that I see, undergrad felt very much like school, and the Bush School program, like or earning my master's, obviously there's still academic elements to it, but it feels very, very more focused on professional development. Like everything I'm doing has to do with building connections and actually bridging the gap between academia and a career. And unfortunately had a lot of friends who graduated undergrad just straight from sociology, didn't really have any plans, didn't really, make any connections, didn't go out and have a ton of opportunities to connect with organizations or build their resume with internships and stuff like that. And they kind of felt lost. And a lot of them have struggled to find jobs since graduating. But I found an internship really easily just because of all the opportunities that you have at Bush to make so many connections. Like, I cannot stress that enough. You are constantly networking with people. There's like an event every week where you have the opportunity to meet the leader of an organization or learn something about a different career area. And so it immediately shifted from like going to class and, doing assignments, and that's what the college experience is, to suddenly, meeting a ton of really valuable career connections, really being able to find your niche too. That was a big thing for me as well. And you're surrounded by the same cohort of people all the time because, again, like Catherine brought up, it's a really small program compared to probably your undergrad major. So that was kind of the biggest difference for me, was I felt like I went from just an everyday student to an actual real working professional, even though you're still a U4, like you're still an undergrad. But it just completely shifted. And I think it like opened a brand new world of professional development for me that has been really useful, not only for finding an internship, but like getting a job lined up for after graduation and stuff like that. So yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. Let's keep continuing with that professional development. I know we have a number of workshops either offered through Holly with the leadership program or the career office or even the writing, or attending the speaker events or the conferences like the Syria conference yesterday. Do any of you have any comments about some of the workshops that you've attended or the speaker events that maybe left an impression on you? Let's talk about that for a few minutes.
I will say during
Yeah.
the leadership, there is a an element to the internship where if you have an unpaid internship or if you expect to have an unpaid internship, there is a leadership module in Canvas, I believe, that you're expected to complete in order to be able to qualify for Bush School funding for your internship. It'll be completely explained to you in so much depth throughout interview conference weekend and orientation if you are accepted into the program. But during those like leadership, we have these little leadership workshops during the fall and spring semester, and we got to take the MBTI test, but like the big expensive version. And we got to take the Clifton Strengths test, the big expensive version, which was really, really fun. I love personality tests, so that was kind of one element of the leadership thing. And then you come to another one after you get your results from that, and you just go through and discuss with the career workshop kind of how your different strengths apply to you and your career and everything. And that was really, really useful. I just love personality tests, so I found it fun. But it was also a really useful element. I like how they focus kind of, they have leadership workshops that aren't just sitting in front of a lecture hall. It's like really you, like who you are as a leader, and that helped me. So
That sounds such like a sociology person there. So, hey, you guys or Rebecca, either one?
I will say on the career services workshops that we attend for that funding, like Pay was talking about, our career services at the Bush School is amazing. Everyone really cares about you and wants to help you within your personal and professional development. And all of those workshops, you do have to go, like, you should go to them, you do have to go to them, but they are honestly very beneficial just to you as like your personal development. Um, they go through, gosh, honestly, everything from like your resume to how to network, what platforms you should be using, like LinkedIn, how to reach out to people in professional ways. Um, the writing workshops, like that's on there as well. I will say on that those workshops are always over the lunch hour, which is very big at the Bush School because we don't have classes from 12 to 1. So just making sure that you are free almost every day, if possible, from 12 to 1 will be very beneficial for you to be able to go to those workshops. And then the speaker events there are some, I guess, from 12 to 1 as well over the lunch hour, but a lot of them sometimes like the Syria event that we had yesterday was honestly throughout the day. And that is just how much you're personally going to take advantage of doing that and connecting, using those skills that you get from those career workshops and actually implementing them.
Great, thank you. Hey, did you have any other little thing or we want to go to the next one? What you got? I know we start to repeat the same thing. So let's go to the internship process. So Pay, let's start with you. When you guys are receiving emails, you might explain a little about the system that we're using here to receive those emails, how you're following up with the leads that are of interest to you in order to find the internship that works for you.
did you mean to say like me pay or did you mean to say Grace? Because Grace hasn't talked in a while.
You're right. Grace,
That's
let's do
okay.
yours. You are correct.
Yeah, I can answer this.
Thank you.
So I actually my internship story is a little unique. So I got an internship through the email service that Andy Armstrong sends out. So what happens is he sends out every single week a really long email with every single internship or job or fellowship opportunity that comes across his desk. And like the Aggie network is huge. So graduated students or other people will send him an email saying like, "Hey, I have an opening for XYZ, pass this along to your Bush School students." And then he compiles it in a one long email and sends it to us every week. So that was how I got my internship. It was with an energy company based out of Houston, and I got it through that email. And I interviewed twice, got the internship, and then they called me in May and they said, "We cannot afford to have you anymore."
Oh no.
And so that was unfortunate. But I remember I emailed Dr. Upton at like 8 p.m. that night, and I was like, I don't know what to do. He emailed me right back and said, "Call me in the morning." And I called him and I was like, I don't know what to do. And he was like, "It'll be okay." And he went above and beyond, emailing people, like calling texting people, seeing if anybody had any availability, because by May everything's pretty much gone. And I was able to get my second internship actually through Rebecca because she had her internship, they had an opening, a last minute dropout, and I was able to get in through that way. So I would say like most people get their internships either through the Bush School or through just applying like normal. And I will say like people will scare you kind of with the amount of internships that they apply to, but that I'm not saying like don't be intimidated by that, but I mean don't be intimidated by that. But that is kind of maybe the reality of how it is, just because it is so competitive. And especially a lot of these especially in our field, there aren't that many, I would say, like based off like a business major or a communications major, they have a lot more opportunities than us. But just my advice would be to start early and be thorough and apply to every single thing that you see that even looks remotely interesting. And another thing that I wish I would have known, or I did, but I maybe dropped the ball a little bit, is any internship that requires a clearance, their application deadline closes extremely early, like September maybe, or middle of October maybe. Whereas other internships, they don't even open until January or February, you know. But as long as you try and you work with the Bush School and you go to the things that they have and you meet people and you make connections, it really isn't nobody. I mean, people might have a tough time, but it's not impossible to get an internship at all.
Good. Either of you two? Okay.
Yeah, I got my internship definitely in a little bit of a different way, but also technically through the Bush School. We had the City of College Station do a panel with ICMA, which is the International City and County Management Association, for anyone curious. I'm now the president of that org. But my first semester in the 3+2 program, I went to a panel, and one of the panelists was a Bush School graduate who now works for the City of College Station. And he works in the auditing department. And I never thought that I wanted to do auditing. I've always, as a sociology major, I hate to say it, I've always hated math. I've been much more of a social studies person, but I switched my track to public policy analysis because I loved my first econ class so much, which maybe makes me a little psycho, but that's okay. And so I was applying to a bunch of internships. I really like living in the City of College Station, and I knew I wanted something in town because I couldn't really afford to travel out of town for an internship. Like a lot of people struggle with that, but I didn't apply to very many internships. I was a little overconfident, but it worked out, so it's okay. But the internal audit department has the oldest running internship program in the City of College Station. And so, or like the City Hall of College Station, like city as an organization, not within the city limits. But they came to speak at the Bush School, and I attended their lunch session. Like Rebecca brought up earlier, a lot of the time events will happen during the lunch hour because they know there aren't any classes that happen then for the graduate students. So I attended it. I got a business card. I applied, and they reached out to me, brought me into interview, and I started crying during the interview. I started crying during my interview with the internal auditing department because I was talking about a job experience that I had had that had taught me that I was very passionate about public service, that kind of involved like the exploitation of downtrodden people. And that, I guess I'm just such a bleeding heart that I started crying when I was thinking of how those people were exploited and like how passionate I was about working in local government and kind of like my sense of justice related to public service. And it was humiliating, and I felt terrible about it, and I could not stop apologizing, and I was like, oh, I totally bombed that interview. And then I went home, and 2 days later, I got an email that was like, yeah, we want you. And I was like, this is crazy, because I started crying. And then when I finally went in for my internship, I talked to the chief internal auditor of the city, and he told me that he had never seen someone so passionate about public service before. Like genuinely just sobbing about how passionate I was about public service, which, it is what it is. But I had no experience in auditing, no experience in financials. I had taken one economics class, never took an accounting class, had no credentials. My background is in sociology. So that just goes to say, sometimes it's not about your actual experience relating to what internship you can get. Also, I didn't think I wanted to go into local government auditing. I just wanted a foot in the door at the City of College Station. But after my internship, it was such a successful internship that they are asking the city for a service level adjustment so they can add a third position just for me to work there after I graduate. So it's one of those things. One thing that they'll tell you sometimes is get an internship, maybe, or take an internship, possibly, in something that you may not think you're fully interested in, just to find out if it works. And sometimes it can be a foot in the door at an organization. Sometimes it can be an experience that, you didn't think you would want or need. But this turned out to be like a major blessing. And I wrote in my little goodbye note to them at the end of the summer, I was like, P.S., maybe I should start crying in interviews more often. So I don't know. That was a little bit of a roller coaster of a story, but there's a lot of like lessons to be learned there, I think. So
But the good news in that is that it did talk about the job market. So you are already found employment if they can get that. Okay, maybe.
that's up to city council.
Okay, see if that works.
Which is highly political, even in local government.
Yes,
So we'll
yeah.
see. But yeah.
Well, and it's not unheard of that sometimes people start internships or get their clearances, and if they do well with that foot in the door, they can get job offers. I've also heard secondarily with the capstone projects that sometimes working for a certain organization could also lead to some job offers because they're already researching in that particular area and they really need more of that. And so they're hiring a student or two off of a capstone every few years.
I will also say, I did have a friend intern with a big 3-letter agency over the summer, and even with everything going on in the federal workspace right now, he did get a return to work offer
Great.
because of his internship. So it can happen anywhere.
Yeah. Rebecca, what do you have? Anything at all you want to talk about? There's some more topics. I'm going to give this about 4 to 5 more minutes and then we'll cut it off. But is it anything else about capstones? Do you want to talk about balancing work and school? What you wish you knew sooner? What's helpful?
Um, well, I can give just some kind of like general tips, I
Sure.
guess we have. First, I mean, as it relates to work, I would say, like we were saying, try to be available over the lunch hour if possible. If not every day, just a few days out of the week. Fridays, there's not usually much happening at the Bush School. So excluding that. Um, Work, I would say so like for last year when it was my first year, I had an on-campus job and it was the hours were not the best, not very consistent, kind of back and forth home, school, work, multiple times throughout the day. And that was very difficult you because the nature of our classes, a lot of them are very reading heavy. You kind of have to have some time to just really like sit down and read and take notes and sometimes reread. And so that was not the best just because it was not very consistent hours. Like I said earlier, I am a guard this year, and that's been an amazing opportunity and much more consistent and gives me a lot more flexibility to go to those workshops and different speaker events as well. And of course, working with faculty. So I guess I can talk about next working with faculty at the graduate level is, I mean, our Bush School professors are all amazing. They all want to talk to you all the time. Like, seriously, go by their office hours or just some of them will leave their door open all the time and you can just pop in, ask any questions that you have. They make themselves very available to help you. So there's no like suffering in silence ever. And even with internships, that's how I ended up finding mine was going to a professor saying, "Hey, I honestly wanted general career advice." And was also like, "Hey, I still don't have an internship." And they were able to get me connected. And then that subsequently ended up helping more Bush School students, which was amazing. And I guess just some general things that I wish I knew sooner, other than, like I said earlier, knowing how to skim. Um, I would definitely recommend knowing how to give a good presentation because you will have to give a presentation in almost every class that you do. It's usually over a final paper, and it could even be with a group, which is even more important because you don't want to be the one person in the group that is holding everyone else back in that presentation, not knowing how to do it. But even saying that, I mean, you can give a presentation, but knowing how to give a good presentation that is concise, your slides look nice, you're covering all the topics, and you're staying within your time limit, and you're not putting everyone to sleep is very, very important. Because I mean, there can be classes where like you are leading everyone in discussion for an hour.
Okay, Carolyn's got a question really quick that says, how did the pace of undergrad classes feel leading up to the graduate level? So as you're wrapping up that junior year, how did that feel?
Like, how was the workload the semester before we started the graduate program? Or
That's what it sounds like. Is that correct, Caroline? You want to give me a thumbs up or feel free to unmute? Yes. Okay. Yes. So that junior year, as you're kind of transitioning and getting ready, as you're wrapping up those classes, did that feel like you were leading up to the graduate level at that, or was it a really big transition?
To me, it wasn't
Yeah, I
crazy.
wouldn't think so.
It wasn't crazy. It's not. Because the one thing that this might be a hot take, but I love this about the graduate classes is because they are basically 3 hours long, they are once a week. So I feel like this isn't true, but it's like it's an illusion. I feel like it seems like I have more time to do my homework and things because I'm not on campus as often, I'm not driving as often, or you're not taking the bus as often getting to and from campus. So it seemed mostly the same. It wasn't a crazy jump or anything like that.
I would think with the demand of a school like Texas A&M, you're already reading a lot, you're already writing a lot, and it depends on the kind of class and the professor you're having. But I think you're right. That transition from having Monday, Wednesday, Friday versus just a 3 hour, you find more time to get something done at the graduate level. So I think that's great. I don't know that it's a huge transition in terms of ability. It is mentally just being ready to take it all in with a fire hydrant because it's coming fast and it's a lot. And you just have to do a really great work plan, right? I've got to do homework from here. I've got to do time for me to work out here. I, I think everybody I've worked at as a GA has to do that. They've got a plan. Can't function without it.
I would say, like you were saying on the ability, actually 3+2 students, I think, usually have a leg up because you are already familiar with A&M, maybe even the Bush School, um, campus, the city. You are in a rhythm of school, whereas if you're coming from work, military experience, you're having to relearn school. So I do think in ability, 3+2 students do have an upper leg in that area. I think maybe the biggest transition that's different is when you're going into a graduate class because you have all of that reading, you're honestly expected to kind of teach yourself the material, whereas the professors will not so much be teaching it to you as much as just wanting to like clarify any questions and talk and have discussion with everyone.
That's a very good point.
I
Hey, what?
would
Yeah.
I would totally agree with that. I will also say that coming into Texas A&M, even just as an undergrad, I knew I wanted to do the 3+2 program like the day I set foot on this campus. So, but I also came in with 3 credit hours. Like I had one class that I came in with, so I was a very traditional student. So I had to take 16 to 18 hour semesters plus summer classes every summer in order to get that 102 hours by the end of my junior year. So I will say that like a 12-hour semester as a grad student is like a 16-hour semester as an undergrad. In terms of the actual workload and how seriously you have to take everything. Because in undergrad, when you don't have to participate in class discussions because your lecture hall has 200 people in it, you can kind of get away with like barely doing the readings as long as you do the assignment. Like I hate to say that, but totally different in grad school. You have to be ready. It's almost like law school. You have to be ready to be cold called to an extent, or at least be able to meaningfully participate in discussions. So the workload was about the same for me between 16 to 18 hours semesters as an undergrad, or those like compressed 10-week summer classes where you're going to class every day and you have a bunch of stuff. That going straight into grad school, I definitely felt like Rebecca said that I kind of had a leg up. Like I was used to that type of workload in that academic environment. So I would say that for me, it was kind of rushed, but also that's just because my whole college experience was very full. And so it actually kind of helped with going straight. I will say this past semester or this past summer was the first time where I hadn't taken a summer class since I started college. And that's because I did my internship instead, which was a full-time job for the summer. So, but yeah, that's just my take on it.
And I'll add on to that, that those that are pursuing the 3+2 are the ones who are prepared and the ones who know what they want and they're ready to tackle it. And so the mindset's already there to be successful. There are some people who apply with their grad degree in hand who are still trying to figure out, I really don't know what I want to do. I think maybe this, but we tend to find the 3+2 are a little more together and ready to tackle it. So I don't know that it's a huge transition. There are elements of it, but you guys are going to do fine. You don't let that imposter syndrome tackle you too much. It's going to happen a little bit, but it's going to be okay. Now, I've provided the emails for the students up on the slide. So if you do want to reach out, but I want to be cognizant, we're already over our time. And I know that's an evening. You guys might have something prepared to go and do. So I want to thank you all for attending. Thank you, students, for being here for us. We will hold another informational session in about another couple of weeks, and we'll do this all again and try to get a few more people ready to learn more about it. But in the meantime, we'll get this posted on YouTube. So thank you guys so much. I appreciate you being here. Enjoy the rest of your evening. And I'm going to stop recording in just a moment. Thank you guys so much.